on the record with Joplin Mayor Pro Tem Keenan Cortez. And Keenan, I want to talk to you about your role as Mayor Pro Tem in just a moment. First, I want to talk about the last 2 years. Joplin's most recently graduated mayor. Congratulations, first of all, on that. Let's talk about those 2 years. It had to have gone by in a whirlwind.
You know, it was over before I knew it, and it has been one of the largest honors, biggest honors of my life, to serve this community as the mayor of the city of Joplin. It was a wonderful experience. I got to do things, meet people, go places that I probably wouldn't have been able to if I had not been the mayor.
Just before we started recording, you showed me a couple of pieces of paper, and I told you I wanted to ask you about your accomplishments. I'm going to ask you a difficult question to answer.
Okay.
What are you most proud of from the last 2 years?
Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot that I'm most proud of. If I really had to put it in a nutshell, is I'm proud of the other 8 city council members that I got to serve with and the staff at City Hall. I don't think people realize and understand the sacrifice that goes into being an elected official, even locally. And I don't think they realize what the staff does day in and day out to make sure that the wheels stay on the bus in the city of Joplin. There's so many people doing so many things at the same time, so that your experience being in the community, living in the community, having water, having sewer, you know, being protected when there's bad weather, is a round-the-clock mission by a lot of dedicated and committed and talented city workers, people that are they've given their everything for this community. I'm so proud of being able to work with those people and serving with the other elected officials. It's just, there's so much work that goes into making sure Joplin is a great community.
So we've kind of talked about it in a broad overarching sense. What are some of the projects, some of the highlights you were able to accomplish that you look at and you say, man, I'm so happy about that?
I brought a list.
I know, I tried to set you up for that.
I brought a list. There's a lot, but there's a couple on here that I'll talk about real quick. We opened up Momentum Bike Park in the last couple of years, which has turned into be just well above our expectations and how it's performing as an amenity in our community. Within 6 months of being open, it was selected as a site, one of 4 worldwide, that's going to host a competition in August that's going to determine some people that are going to move on into a championship role in mountain biking. We just opened the place and we're hosting an international event there.
Well, and you mentioned it's a community amenity, but I've driven by Momentum a few times, and I see the license plates from Michigan, from Nebraska, from California.
We have had people from all over the country come to this park. I was talking with somebody the other day, and they live out on the East Coast, and they're building a bike park in their community, and we were like, well, you got to come check out ours. Get on our website and check it out. And I was like, oh no, we've heard of Momentum Bike Park. You know, all the way out in North Carolina, they've already heard of our park. And we opened it the Monday before Thanksgiving. So if you just think about it was a Monday before Thanksgiving. We're about 6 months from there right now, and people on the East Coast have heard about it already. Huge, huge win for our community. But that's not all. We tore down the old Freeman Hospital, which was a dangerous, abandoned, decrepit building. And we got that thing down. There's a beautiful green space there, and it will be repurposed for housing for elderly and veterans coming soon. We are renovating Ewart Park. The pool hadn't been used in years, and that area is going to be turned into the largest splash pad in the area, and in the wintertime is going to double as an ice skating rink, an outdoor ice skating rink. In Joplin, Missouri, in the wintertime, you're going to be able to go and ice skate outdoors. That whole park's getting a tremendous makeover. It's a historic park in our community, and it's going to look better than it ever has here in just a few months. Some new trails in town. The Tin Cup Trail has been completed. We're starting to even extend that all the way down to our largest attraction in our community with the Grand Falls. We're starting work down there for a new overlook and trails leading down there. It's going to be even more grand than it is right now.
Well, and I don't want to cut you off from your list, but that's one thing in dealing with you the last couple of years that it's always struck me that there's an eye on today, but it's also an eye on the future of the community. That is a sense I've always gotten from you. Is that true?
What are we going to do to build our community to make sure that the ones that come behind us have a community that's even better than the one we inherited? You know, it's about forecasting. It's about looking into the future, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. How is this community going to be better then than it is today? And a lot of what you do when you sit up there on that dais with those other elected officials is work on missions just like that. How are we going to improve this community, not only today, but for tomorrow as well?
You know, you mentioned the trails, you mentioned the ice skating. My wife likes to go hiking, and for years it's been, well, we're going to go to Northwest Arkansas this weekend, we're going to go to Springfield. And as you mentioned that, it dawned on me in the last couple of years, a few times she's gone out of town, but now it's people coming to us, the people that we would go hiking with on the weekends. Now they're coming to see us, now they're coming to Joplin.
The overarching theme was everybody go to Northwest Arkansas for Saturday and Sunday, mountain biking, hiking, doing all that. Northwest Arkansas is coming to Joplin now. They're coming to check out our parks, our trails, our bike park. It's wonderful, and it's what should happen. You know, we can have nice things. We shouldn't.
Absolutely.
We absolutely can have nice things, but we've done a lot of work, and I want your viewers to understand I am not in any way sitting here taking credit for the things that have happened over the last couple of years, because the list is quite long, but that is a result of all the council members, all the elected officials, and this tremendous staff at City Hall working together and moving, you know, pushing the boulder forward and making Joplin better today for tomorrow.
Now, I know we've talked about accomplishments. If you had to point at a couple of things and say that's unfinished business from your 2 years as mayor, what are those things?
You know, we're still working our way through JHAP and JHARP, which is an opportunity for first-time home buyers to get qualified, to get some down payment assistance. Up to $40,000 in down payment assistance on a new home, their very first home of owning it. And JHARP is, we're going to repair some stuff. You need new siding, you need an AC unit, you need a new roof on your house, new windows. We've had citizens in our community been able to take advantage of these programs and upgrade the windows in their home, which is going to help them with their energy bills. Get a handicap ramp built onto their home. Get new siding put up to improve the curb appeal of their home. How about putting a new roof on there? I put a new roof on my house last fall. It was almost $20,000.
Yes, sir.
That's huge, and it boosts your property value when you do that. We've had citizens in our community that have been able to take advantage of our JHARP program and get a new roof put on their house. Talk about improving their quality of life. That's amazing that we've been able to do that. ARPA has been really, really good. American Rescue Plan Act, we aggressively sought a lot of dollars from that, and it's been great for our community. It's worked the heck out of the staff and the council, but it has been so advantageous for the good things that we've been able to get accomplished in our community.
You know, we mentioned the future a moment ago. So many communities, not just here locally, but throughout the country, they talk about the drain. People are moving out, but they're not moving back in. It sounds like this is, all of this together is a way to say, hey, Joplin can be your home. Joplin can be where you live.
My God, we have experienced such growth, not just in the last 2 years, but in the last decade. We've got a medical school. We got a medical school in Joplin.
I never would have thought that. When I grew up in Joplin, I never would have thought it.
Exactly. We have a dental school. We have 2 major hospitals. We have a university that's growing by leaps and bounds every single year. This is a place, and I tell people this all the time, you can be born inside the city limits of Joplin, go to all your school, go to college, go to the university, get a degree, then go to a medical school, get a doctorate, be able to become a doctor. You don't even have to leave the city limits. You don't even have to travel outside the city limits. You know, it's easy to do that around here. You can bleed over into Webb City, you can bleed over into Carl Junction. It doesn't even feel like you left the city limits. But you can do all of that in Joplin, Missouri, the 5th largest metropolis in the state, without even leaving the city limits of Joplin. How freaking great is that to have that in our community?
If you'd have told me that when I was a kid, that you know, in 1988, 1989, hey, this is coming, honestly, I would have looked at you like you were crazy.
Yeah, in my lifetime, I've been able to experience the first McDonald's in the city limits of Joplin. I remember when McDonald's opened up, Sonic, all that kind of stuff. And now we're talking about the things that we're talking about.
It really paints a picture for the future, which let's talk about the future. We've talked about your role as mayor, but
Yeah.
you're not done. You're mayor pro tem.
I know, they won't leave me alone. You know, I joined the council in 2019 and had to immediately run a campaign to get reelected, which I was successful at 2020. Made me mayor pro tem. And then the next time around, 2 years later, made me mayor pro tem again. And then after that, they made me the mayor. And now I'm the mayor pro tem again. This is my third shot at being the mayor pro tem. So I've been number 1 or number 2 pretty much the entire time that I've been on the council. And I feel so humbly honored to serve this community. I love Joplin. I love the people of Joplin, all the people of Joplin. And we are doing great things here. This is a traditional Midwestern town with traditional Bible Belt values, and there's good people, there's good neighbors, and being able to get in there and serve and do things behind the scenes so little Johnny and Mrs. Jones and Mr. Smith can just live a good quality life is something that I value greatly, and I'm so humbled that I get the privilege of being able to do that, and that the community trusts me to be able to serve in the capacity that I've served.
Okay, so we've talked about accomplishments. Let's look forward a little bit. Is there a big goal that you're looking at? Is there a big project you're looking at that you're pointing at and you're saying, man, I am excited. I can't wait to get started on that?
Yeah, we've got a couple things coming up that are, I'm calling them game changers for our community. Prospect Village is one of them. It's the indoor sports complex that's going to go, if you're familiar with the community, Home Depot, the car lots there, the IHOP, you know, kind of back behind the IHOP on Rangeline Road in that old land that hasn't done anything for decades. We're working on getting that developed so that we can put a Prospect Village in there. We're going to have an indoor sports arena. We're going to have more housing. We're going to have walkable trails. We're going to have some retail. We're going to try to anchor it with a really, really nice grocery store. It's not a Walmart. Nothing against Walmart, please don't come at me, you know, don't serve me with any papers. But it's going to be a signature accomplishment that's really happening and really going to be something in the next couple of years. People are going to be able to see things and go, whoa, that's different. That's nice. You know, the indoors, the year-round youth sports industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. We're going to attract some of that to Joplin. We're going to have things going on at this indoor sports complex year-round that the kids and the youth can take advantage of. We're going to have additional housing that people can live in. We're going to have more grocery stores and more retail options for people. And that's not all. Everybody's wondering, well, what's happening to the mall? What's happening? You know, the mall is dying. Yeah, it is. It is. But we're not going to let it. We're working on what's it going to look like? What does the mall look like in our future? So there's some talks going on. We're talking with Missouri Southern State University, which is a neighbor to the North Park Mall, and the mall, and trying to figure out what is this going to look like? How can we take advantage of what's happening right now? It's kind of sad to watch the brick and mortar retail go away, but how are we going to shift that into our advantage? So those talks are ongoing, and I think that that's going to morph into something that's going to be really great and really grand for our community as we go into the future as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
And my last question for you, sir. You talked about the sacrifice that it takes to be a community servant and work on council. But when you see these projects come to fruition, when you see dirt start moving, I mean, just listening to you, you sound like a kid on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Does it re-energize you when you start to see these things come to life?
You know, I think about the Monday before Thanksgiving. It's pouring down rain, and we're cutting the ribbon on Momentum Bike Park. It's pouring down rain, and I'm pulling in out there. First of all, I can hardly get there. There's so much traffic going into the park that day that I thought I was going to be late for the ribbon cutting, the cameras, and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is pretty exciting. And then I get there, and our pump track is right next to the pavilion where we cut the ribbon and had all the cameras and everything. And the rain didn't bother none of those kids. They're out there doing that. And guess who's with them? Their parents. And they're having a wonderful time. It's smiles all over. I've sent, every now and then, I'll just tell a little secret here. Every now and then, on my way home some nights, I'll go and drive through Momentum Bike Park. I'll drive through the parking lot and I'll look around. You know what I see? I see 3-year-olds on their bicycle with their training wheels, and they're smiling and they're having fun and they're giggling, and their parents are just thrilled that they're getting exercise, they're outdoors, they're enjoying what they're doing. I see those teenagers over there on their pump track, and they're jumping and they're having a good time, and they're with their buddies. And guess what? They're not at the mall shoplifting, and they're not doing drugs somewhere. They're out having good, wholesome Midwest fun, and they're getting exercise and taking care of their body. Those things, when you get to witness them, it makes all the hard work that made that happen worth it. It just, I can't describe the feeling. I'm not articulate enough to describe what it feels like on deep down on the inside when I'm driving through that parking lot and I see families and I see kids and I see older adults out there getting their exercise and riding their bikes and wearing their helmets and being responsible with what the community has given them. It's an amazing feeling of accomplishment when you see things like that. And it just makes you want to do more. It makes you want to say, what's the next project? Let's get going. What do we got to do? You know, and you know, all this kind of stuff takes money. And that's kind of where I want to end today. It's worth investing in your community. And you know what? Joplin just said, yes, we're going to invest in our community just recently by passing Proposition Police and Fire. Something that we've struggled with for a couple of decades now since I've been around City Hall is taking care of our first responders. They stood up to the plate, went into the voting booth and said, we are going to invest in our community. Yes, we want our police paid right, our fire department paid right, our dispatcher paid right. We want them to have the best equipment so that they can take care of us, because that's what they do. They live to take care of Jeremiah Cooks and Keenan Cortez's every single day. And it's just wonderful to be a part of a community that's willing to do that and willing to invest the time and the money, the resources. Got to have the resources to make our community better tomorrow than it is today.
Well, Keenan Cortez, Mayor Pro Tem of Joplin, it is always a pleasure, sir. Thank you for going on the record with us.
Anytime.
We're on the record now with Joplin's newest mayor, Rob O'Brien. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
First things first, you've got 2 years ahead of you. I'm going to kind of ask you a broad question to start with. What are some of your goals for the next 2 years?
Well, I think first and foremost, I'd like to make sure we continue the momentum that the community has seen in the last several years, and make sure that some projects that are already underway, like Prospect Village, come to fruition, and that we take care of those. We also have some pretty exciting things, I believe, in our medical sector. We see Missouri Southern with its Health Innovation Building, but at KCU, the medical and dental colleges, and our 2 medical facilities with Freeman and Mercy, and some beginnings through the Regional Health Alliance to start connecting the dots and see how we can build that arena up even stronger. It's a great strength for the community, but it's one that I think we can continue to build upon. And of course, really continue to provide the best city services possible. I was very happy to see that Proposition Police and Fire passed. That's good news for retaining and attracting our officers and firefighters. But we need to make sure we stay, for the very city operational perspective, we stay on top of making sure everybody who works hard for the citizens of Joplin is also compensated, and that not just police and fire, but across departments.
Now, for our viewers who may not know this, you come from a Chamber of Commerce background, most recently here in Joplin. It's got to be exciting to see the growth that's happened over the last 10 years and to see where Joplin could be headed from that perspective.
Oh, it is, and you know, I think, Jeremiah, one of the things that I think concerned a lot of people was the 2011 tornado. What would be the outcome of that? Because there are other communities that have significant natural disasters, and people leave, and they don't come back, and that was a concern. Certainly I had at the time. I know then City Manager Mark Rohr, then Superintendent C.J. Huff. I mean, there are a lot of discussions about, you know, how quickly do we need to act, what can we do to assure people that Joplin will continue to thrive and recover. And there are steps taken then that I think helped that a lot, including, for example, the school saying we're going to open on time. And wherever you live, temporarily, we'll find you and bring you to school. But you know, what we saw at that point was we did lose population. We completely recovered that within 3 or 4 years. We grew after that, but particularly since COVID, we've seen an increase in population in Joplin and in the region. That I think is that's very beneficial, and again, like to see that continue, and that growing population also brings you know, new opportunities for amenities in the community. In the retail sector, it's about rooftops, how many people are in the market area. In other businesses, it's what's the workforce. And as the population grows, businesses can see a benefit in more employees available. So that growth can be good for us. We also know no one wants to have explosive growth. We want to maintain the thread, and what makes Joplin and the neighboring area such a great place is that people are still very connected to each other and support each other's organizations and communities, and we don't want to lose that thread, though.
You mentioned growth throughout the region. We were talking about this before we started recording. We're seeing people that are moving here. They're moving from Florida, they're moving from California, they're moving from New York. What does it say to you that these people are looking at Joplin and saying, you know what, I've had enough of this, this is what I want?
Well, I think over time that I was at the Chamber, we would see people who would ask, you know, from those other states, far-flung states, they'd like to get information on the community. They're thinking about moving here, but there was always a connection somewhere in there. They had worked in the region before, or they had parents in the region, kids in the region, whatever that was. And what has changed, even what was starting to change when I was at the Chamber, was people who were just reaching out. They'd seen things online, they'd looked at websites, they saw what a great community this was. There's good medical care. They felt like the transportation network was positive, and just said this could be a good place to live without any initial connection to the community at all. And I think that has accelerated since COVID. We saw a big shift in demographics during the 2020, 2021 time frame of people really saying, I need to get out of the big cities and get someplace where there's a little more space, where it's a little more affordable, where it feels safer, where I have more recreation opportunities. And Joplin has benefited from that. I think even though we are a city in the heart of a metro area, we are still a comfortable city in size, with also lots of great communities around us, depending on what people are looking for, but that all feeds into Joplin.
You mentioned a moment ago maintaining the thread. You don't want the explosive growth. So, what is the role then in your mind of the mayor in making sure that you walk that line to manage sustainable growth?
Well, I think part of that is that we want to make sure, for example, that as we address housing, and we do need more housing in the area, and we are seeing more housing, and even though the prices have gone up, it is still affordable compared to many places around the country. But we want to make sure we're not taking shortcuts either. You know, there are communities out there, from reading across the landscape of what's going on in other places, that loosen codes, or they're not they're annexing and building houses far beyond the capacity of the community to handle that with police and fire and infrastructure, and then they start having problems and struggling, and that's when it feels like the community is not where it needs to be a good place for all of the citizens. And I think that's part of, the city of Joplin. We've seen very steady incremental growth, even though it's increased since COVID. It's not been explosive. And I think as long as we act in a way that makes sure that we can serve those needs and not just run out and annex a whole lot of land or allow a whole lot of houses to be built that we cannot serve. And so I want to make sure I'm clear on that. It's not saying don't come and build a house, and it's not saying there isn't annexation needed for the growth of the community, but we also need to do it in a way that respects our ability to serve the people who move there.
And it sounds like what you're talking about is a balancing act here, making sure that not only can we do this, but we can meet the needs of doing it.
And that's it. And it's a balancing act for, it's always a balancing act. The one thing that I think Joplin has benefited from is about $100 million in federal grant money the last few years. That's allowed the city to tackle some bigger ticket projects and fund those. There's been some support provided for the services, for example, with the use tax proposition action, allowed some additional sales tax funding to come in, which added police and fire officers as well. But that will continue, but those grant dollars go away.
Sure.
And so at that point, the other, the thing that the city's going to have to do, and particularly city council is going to have to do, since they approve the budget, is to make sure that we are living within the new reality of the budget, that we don't have all of this grant money available, and make sure we're prioritizing projects to the revenue that's now available.
I suspicion you've hit on a couple of the answers to my next question, but I'll ask you anyway. Mayoral priorities, if you were to outline a few of those to us, what would they be?
Well, and you're right, I think I've touched on those. One, I want to make sure that what we are doing today within the city, within the budget available, is making sure that we are keeping good city staff and adequate staff to meet the current needs, and that we do have a game plan to make sure we can continue to accommodate growth, because we will get some growth regardless. As you mentioned, we've seen growth coming in, and COVID was part of that as people have shifted. So we want to make sure we're continuing to provide good basic services, I believe, as well as the kind of quality of living amenities like our beautiful park system and the new Momentum Bike Park, which was grant funded, and continue to make sure this is a good place, not only just to know the basics, but also to have the kind of amenities that people should expect. Then beyond that, I think we look at those kind of things that can help bring new activity, new opportunities to the community. Prospect Village with the sports field, plus housing, plus an indoor facility of a size that would allow Joplin to attract more sports activities and tournaments that bring people to the community, but it brings tax revenue. You know, they stay in the hotels, they
Sure.
eat out, they buy gas. Those kind of things allow more revenue to come into the community. More broadly, Jeremiah, I think I'm very excited about the One Joplin Thrive initiative. They just recently had their first summit, public input on 4 key areas about affordable housing and nutrition, and those kind of initiatives that pull and coordinate a lot of the service agencies together is a great model that I think the city can expand on and help coordinate in terms of, for example, you know, the city and the schools and the university and KCU. You know, everyone works on their things, and I think there's good communication, but really, as mentioned earlier, as one example, how do we pull everyone together and say, how do we connect these dots around medical care? And what are other opportunities that we can leverage that will create stronger, better paying jobs for the people here, but also increase the tax base for the city in a way that, again, helps us sustain other needs in the community. So I'm very excited with the Joplin Regional Health Alliance and what they're doing. It's a good starting point. I think we just need to continue to collaborate and be more intentional about it to really take advantage of some opportunities that are already coming our way. But how can we leverage those to create additional opportunities that benefit the community?
No, I've got one last question for you, and correct me if I'm wrong on this summarization, but it sounds like what you're saying is there are 2 things here. One is, how do we make sure Joplin is the best home possible, but also how do we make Joplin the best destination possible for people to want to come and visit?
That's a good summary. We could end here if you want to, but but it really is. You know, part of when my family came here 30 years ago, and in the chamber business, much like many businesses, you come and you commit yourself, but you know, if you want to move up, you move on.
Sure.
You find that next place. And what I was blessed with was a board and partner organizations in economic development, and we could say, hey, how do we grow next? What can we try next? And people would say, sure, let's try that. Let's jump out here. Let's do an innovation center. Let's work with Crowder to get a training center put to place. And now Crowder's expanded to a brand new location because of the fact that they have more students. They grew, which is awesome. So, you know, after a while, it's, you know, there's a job and you say, this is a great community, and then after a while it becomes, this is a great community, and the job becomes secondary, and then after a while you say, well, heck, I need to retire. Because this is home, we stayed home. It's our home, and it's a community that I want to continue to see that kind of feeling when people come here, that they say, even if they're here for a job that they think is going to last a few years and move on, that it makes it difficult for them to leave, where they can say, no, I want to be really invested in the community and make this my home. The second part of your question, you know, Joplin has national recognition for so many things. We're part of the Route 66 song. We're on Route 66, and people, because I still do work with other communities in economic and workforce development, people recognize Joplin, and I think when they come here and see what's going on, they want to stay for a while. And if we can have those things like the sports complex, the Prospect Village, you know, even good medical care. It's kind of the downside. You're here for a medical reason, but if the community, if you feel like the community's supportive, you know, to your family when they have to stay in the hotels and those kind of things, and you start thinking, well, I didn't come here for a good reason, but this is a pretty good place, and they tell other people. And so being a good supportive destination across the scope of what we have in our economy is really a plus, because again, it brings dollars in, it helps the economic base, but it also, people go home and say, I was well treated in Joplin. It's a good place. And maybe that eventually picks up some more residents here.
And we could go on quite a bit longer, but I think this is a good place to leave this conversation. I know we will have you back on soon, sir.
You will. I know.
Joplin Mayor Rob O'Brien, thank you for going on the record with us.
Okay, thanks, Joe.